Well, hello, good morning. Uh, I am speaking to you today post testimony. Yesterday, I spent pretty much the all day testifying in a couple matters, and I am absolutely exhausted. So I wanted just to check in with you. I was kind of organizing my morning here, and I wanted to check in with you just a little bit to show you a post testimony Dr. Childress. Um, and but also to a little bit talk about what's going on in the court system, the legal system, family courts, because I'm shifting my focus. I have been focused on the mental health system, fixing the mental health system. Um, I think we're substantially at that point. It's just a matter of when mental health people decide they're going to practice at an appropriate level. And as soon as they decide that, we'll get quality mental health services in the family courts. Uh, the and so now I'm shifting my focus over to the broken legal system and what's going on over there. And boy, that's a broken system as well relative to pathology. Well, the reason is it's not the right system. It's the legal system is for crimes. That's a not the right system for pathology. Pathology needs to get into the healthcare system, needs treatment, needs to be fixed. But instead, the pathology's driving this into the wrong system, the legal system, to put the parent on trial and make it really hard, and because they can manipulate the court system. And the court is gladly participating in that manipulation because the attorneys are making lots of money. Everybody fights about everything, and they just do what they do. And and so that's a very difficult system. However, the problem basically for the legal system is that could become a semi-functional system relative to pathology. It needs to coordinate with the healthcare system, but that could work if they had quality mental health services. And so we need to get that quality mental health information and treatment into the court system, because if they don't have mental health services, then nothing's going to work. And it's going to be very destructive, which is what it's been. And so we really need to get a coordination of two systems involved. The legal system dealing with, because of the pathological parent will drive this into the legal system. They'll make it about custody, and that's what, so it will arrive there, but we need to get it back to the healthcare system, get an accurate diagnosis, get the court can then make its decisions, and then we move on to the treatment phase of the pathology. But the mental health people really, really need to stand up. This is child abuse, this is spousal abuse. We need to get high quality mental health services into the family courts to get good information to the courts, the best information, and for the children, child protection. This should not be happening. So that's been my focus, getting the mental health system up. What I Shifting over to the legal system. This pathology has code. It does things. It manipulates people, manipulates all of you. And I know the pathology, so I know the source code, and I know what it's doing, like driving things into the legal system, the wrong system. It's totally manipulation, and I know the source code. I know where it does that, why it does that, and the traumas and stuff. And so this pathology is pattern. It does certain things. And one of the things it does is it puts in its victims a passivity. It's kind of, I think it's like a toxin in the bloodstream that makes them more passive to the abuse and stuff. And clearing that passivity out of the parents' bloodstreams is a challenge. And one of the components of that is the parents here are looking to be rescued by somebody. There's, please, somebody come rescue me. Somebody come see the reality of what's happening here and make it stop. And that's a history of the child abuse and trauma moving through generations. That somebody comes and rescues the child, and so that's the theme that's coming through. And the targeted parent is the one carrying that theme of no rescue. Where's the rescue? Where's the rescue? And it should come from mental health. So that's an actual reality. The mental health people, this pathology hits the mental health system, our psychologists should be activating into duty to protect and protecting the parent from spousal abuse, protecting the child from child abuse, and rescuing the child. But they're not. And in fact, they're abandoning the child to child abuse and throwing the child to child abuse. And so the mental health people are just phenomenally bad. But that theme of rescue will then get onto me, and so everybody's looking for Dr. Childress to rescue them, and it's a motivational pathology. I can tell you what the pathology is. I told you 10 years ago. I can tell you how to solve it. I'm telling you now. I told you 5 years ago. I can tell you exactly what the pathology is and exactly how to solve it, and it won't make any difference because there's no motivation to solve it. Everybody wants the pathology, wants everything just the way it is. Now, everybody will scream, no, I don't want it just the way it is. Yes, you do. Because I've explained the pathology, I've explained the solution, and you are still inert, taking no action to either address the pathology or to address your incompetence or to address the solution. And I've done that on purpose. I'm a clinical psychologist. Everything I've done for the past 10 years has been to expose the pathology. And the pathology is not just in the pathological parent, it's in all of you. It's even in the targeted parent. I have not talked about that much because I don't want to blame the victim. Holy cow, you're a traumatized parent. There's a lot, but there's a reason you chose that other person. There's reasons why this situation has emerged and you have been ineffective in addressing it. So there's reasons, but it's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. Bad people are doing bad things. However, my point being that every single aspect of the system is keeping the pathology in place. And nobody wants to change it. Okay? And the evidence of that is me. Okay. There's nobody coming out here from working with me or trying to do stuff or do it. They don't want to solve it. They don't want it. When I'm the parakeet in the coal mine, when they want to solve it, I'll know because they'll contact me and they'll start doing what I say and we'll start solving the pathology. So but it's exhausting. Let me tell you, because I feel like I'm carrying everything all by myself. With a few shout outs to a couple people, I recognize there's a cloud of other folks who see and kind of are working to do things, but generally in the scope, APA, AFCC, American Bar Association. What I'm going to be doing here going forward, just so you're aware, I'm going to be going after the licenses of the incompetent mental health people. And that's what I testified about yesterday. That's what I do right now in review of reports is go through them line by line, apply knowledge, and see what's up. And typically there's ethical violations, typically there's incompetence, typically there's all sorts of problematic professional work. Basically, I used to be a professor. Basically, I'm grading papers, so I know I've taught courses in, assessment and diagnosis and treatment planning and all that. So I'm applying all that knowledge and I'm grading papers. Did you do a proper assessment? Is this right kind of stuff in professional psychology? And so while the parents want me to come in and help the court make decisions and do things. I can't do that because your mental health person who should do that failed. They just collapsed. And if I try to go in and do it because they collapsed, so I try to do it, I'm going to get myself in trouble because that's not my role. I don't have duty of care is what it is. You're not my patient. So I'm not supposed to be diagnosing you or treating. And I don't want to diagnose you. And that's not my job. No, 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 no. Because it's an awesome responsibility. Once I develop, you're my patient, I got to take care of you. No, I'm a consultant in the matter to review the mental health people. But sometimes parents, you want me because they're failing. And it's so tempting for me to get in there because I see what the diagnosis is. They're reporting the symptoms, but they just don't see it because they're so ignorant. So I can say, holy cow, here's a category, here's a diagnostic criteria, here's the symptoms, and we have a pattern, man. But I can't do that because I didn't talk to people, I didn't interview, and there's reasons, legitimate reasons why I shouldn't be making a diagnosis on this. But I can point out there are deficiencies. And when I do that, the mental health person is looking probably at 2 to 3 years of nightmare. The board complaint, then they're going to get an attorney, and that's going to go on for a while. They're potentially sanctions on their license, and that could affect their, place in court and their career. If they lose their license, holy cow, they're working at Target. And that's another thing about what I'm doing. I'm a clinical psychologist. I like to help people. I'm in here to help children and families. And instead, I have been shaped into this role of destroying careers. So every time I get a report in, I look, that's a psychologist here. And when the report comes in, they're a psychologist. When the report leaves, they may not be. Okay. And that's troubling. Okay. I wish they would do the right thing. I wish they would care about it. But if they don't, they're hurting children and they're hurting parents. So I'm going to come in and say what they do and expose what they do. But it's not a pleasant task for me to destroy people's careers. However, they deserve it. So we need to get child abusers and spousal abusers out of the family courts. That's just a fact. And then we need to get the courts higher quality information. And that's how I'm doing it. It won't take very long, in my estimation, before the rumors about what Dr. Childress will do to your career when he reviews your report begin to circulate under the surface, because no one sees my reports that go into the court. They're confidential to the matter. So it's going to have to be by word of mouth as the forensic psychologists begin to process the information that I'm putting into the family courts. And so I'll be addressing that going forward as well. Just maybe helping the forensic psychologists compensate or address the problematic issues prior to my report. But we'll get to that point. I'm busy. Busy doing the reports, going after the license. So what happens, though, what I anticipate will happen is that then the forensic psychologists will begin to prepare themselves for potential review by Dr. Childress. So what are my critiques, and how do they protect themselves from Dr. Childress, who's like a predator wandering the savannah out there? All these forensic psychologists how do I protect myself from Dr. Childress? And the way they protect themselves is they're going to have to start assessing for child abuse and shared delusional disorders and factitious disorders, and coming back with a child abuse diagnosis when it's warranted. They're going to have to elevate their standards of practice up to just baseline, just APA ethics code. Then we'll go higher than the APA ethics code. But we need to just get baseline at this point, competence. And so, parents should never have to explain the pathology to the doctor. Never, ever, 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 ever should a patient have to explain the pathology to the doctor. But you people are having to explain the pathology to the doctors. Never should not happen. In addition, Dr. Childress should not have to explain it to them. So that indicates how bad they are. I shouldn't have to explain it to them in order to have a conversation, but I do. I have to educate the doctors to explain what's going on with their patients. That should never happen. But I do, because they're so incredibly lazy. Just lazy. They don't care. Indolent. And that's all your forensic psychologists. And the licensing boards don't care. They don't do anything. They don't enforce standards. APA doesn't care. The American Bar Association doesn't care. And that's going to be my next thing. American Bar Association. Why aren't you slamming the APA about the low quality of mental health services the APA is giving you in the family courts? Holy Toledo Bar Association. Why are you tolerating the low quality of mental health services that professional psychology is giving you? Why aren't you slamming the APA getting better quality mental health services over here? Oh my goodness. So that's going to be part of my focus. I'm going to be talking to the attorneys. I'm going to be talking to the judges. I'm going to be talking to the GALs and the parenting coordinators. I'm going to be talking to all the legal people about what the legal people need to do. And we need to get you competent mental health services is what we need to do. And my approach is somebody has to hold these incompetent people accountable. Somebody has to get accurate information into the court. And when I do that, that's going to provoke a risk management response where they're going to elevate their practice to protect themselves from Dr. Childress down here. And when they elevate their practice, wow, there we go. Yay. Okay, we got competence in here. We got motivation for people to do something and to actually know what they're doing. Yay. Now, why didn't the APA do anything about that? Why didn't the AFCC do anything about that? Why didn't any of the forensic psychologists do anything about that? Why is Dr. Childress working all by himself? And why am I having to threaten your license to get you to learn what you're doing about child abuse, about the family courts, about dark personalities, about everything? Why do I have to threaten your license to do that? It's 3 diagnostic indicators, 12 associated clinical science, parenting practices rating scale. Collect that routinely on every family. Diagnostic checklist, parenting practices rating scale. Routinely collect that. No, they refuse. They say, no, I'm not going to tell you what the child's symptoms are. I'm not going to tell you if these child symptoms are present. I'm not going to tell you what the parenting is of the targeted parent. They just refuse to say. Okay, your license on the one. If you're going to practice at that exceedingly low level where you are not even disclosing what the child's symptoms are when you are asked, then you lose your license and go work at Target. That's fine with me. But that's just an incredibly low level of professional practice. And the courts tolerate it, and APA tolerates it, and licensing boards tolerate it. But closing up here. Okay. It's incredibly dangerous for me out there. When I opened my testimony in another state remotely, I consulted with an attorney. The attorney provided me with reports. I provided an opinion about those reports, and then I'm testifying in support of my report. The opposing counsel began by threatening my license. Witness intimidation. It was so surprising I didn't respond as witness intimidation. It tries it again. The pathology, I'm going to say I'm not testifying in this case if the opposing counsel is going to do witness intimidation and you threaten my license if I testify because I'm practicing psychology in that state without a license. If I consult with an attorney in that state, that's ludicrous. That's No, that's not true in any of the 50 states. That's not true in the state. They were just making that up to threaten me, to threaten my license, try to intimidate me so I would not testify in the court case. So I have, right as I'm testifying, I have witness intimidation by the opposing counsel. It was like, wow. So I have the opposing counsels who want to destroy me in any way possible because they don't want this information getting to the courts. And I have the other parent wants to destroy me in any way possible because they don't want this information getting to the courts. And I have the forensic psychologist wanting to destroy me in any way possible because they don't want this information getting to the courts. And I have all the, other professionals, the Gardnerian PAS people don't want this information getting to the courts either. And so nobody wants truthful, accurate information getting to the courts. The forensic psychologists are the worst because if it does, that will expose them as being absolutely ignorant, incompetent. They need to leave the field, but that's their career, but they don't have anything else to do. So there's a massive conflict of interest. So they don't want the information that Dr. Childress about clinical psychology and the solution, they don't want that information getting to the courts. So Michael Saini, president of the AFCC, does not want a solution to the problem and does not want the courts to know this is a persecutory delusion or factitious disorder or child abuse, because that will indicate that Dr. Saini has misdiagnosed the pathology his entire career. So he doesn't want the court to have that information. Nobody wants Dr. Childress to get that information into the court system and the legal system. And so it's really dangerous for me right now. I cite to the Oregon sanctions. The only issue, the only use of my report to Dorsey Pruder and the custody resolution method about her old data research thing, I'm providing consultation to a research project in California. But the data that she was doing the research project on, the data came from Oregon, apparently. And the only use of my report to her was to file a licensing board complaint against the forensic psychologist. That was the only use of it. And the licensing board in Oregon massaged their laws to extend their jurisdiction into California to sanction specifically me. Why? There was no injured party in Oregon. The other parent didn't even know there was a report. The parent who asked for the thing from Dorsey wanted. I never talked to the parent. If a licensing board complaint. And so it triggered. And so they were retaliating against me because my report resulted in a licensing board complaint against a forensic psychologist. So I faced that from every forensic licensing board. So forensic psychologists on the licensing boards are dangerous to Dr. Childress. And so there's not a friend to me out there, and there's a lot of people who want to hurt me. It's a dangerous world. I'm ready. Okay, so I'm here. So I'm going after their license. They're going after my license. And we'll see how this plays out. If they want to put their license on the line and continue to be ignorant, incompetent, and unethical, that's fine. I will continue to put my license on and be knowledgeable and ethical and doing the right thing, and have to put my license on the line as a result. The legal system, you need to understand that. Okay, if you threaten the license of the doctors who try to come over here and tell you and do the right thing, you're not going to get any doctors over here. And that's exactly the situation you have. And so as I go into the legal system, I'm going to have to explain to you that you're responsible for the low quality mental health services you're getting because you're threatening the licenses of the doctors. Okay, so stop doing that. Okay, you can't be doing that. Now, how do we protect the doctors who are coming over here? First, the legal system. You need to back off and you need to appreciate the knowledge that's coming over here and not get into your court thing. And the psychologists then need to get you the quality. That's their job. Okay, that's the whole thing about second opinion consultation and competence standards and get out of, licensing board complaints and malpractice lawsuits, get them out of the field. We need to get quality services. That's mental health responsibility, APA, to get you services. But the legal system needs to recognize that their adversarial system doesn't work in the family courts. And we got staff splitting around the borderline. That's the other feature. Staff splitting, where everybody fights among themselves. And you just feed that staff splitting, and you feed the conflict. And you're so long, and 6 months, 9 months. Clinical psychologists aren't going to work with you if you take 6 months, 9 months, 12 months on a child abuse case. They're going to say, you're not treating child abuse. I'm treating child abuse. You, the court system, are participating in the child abuse, so I'm not going to work in the family courts because you're abusive. You're child abusers in the family courts. And so the clinical psychologist, I did that. I'm not working over here because the court system will mess with my treatment. So we need to coordinate the two systems. Legal system, you need to get it out of the healthcare. Healthcare, you need to fix it. But in the meantime, I'm exhausted. So, closing, one of the reasons I hopped on this morning is I wanted to give you a little bit of context. I think, I'm going to share a little contrast between Sunday morning coffee with Dr. Childress and post-testimony Dr. Childress. To give you an indication, this has taken a beating on me. I've stopped traveling. I don't travel anymore for testimony or anything because it's just too exhausting. If I have to travel for testimony, I'm out for 3-4 days. It's not only the travel days, 3 or 4 days around, so I'm good out for a week. Nothing happens, and I'm just exhausted. So I don't travel anymore, and testimony and the stresses of everybody's fighting about things, and it's dangerous for me, and nobody's like motivated to solve anything, and it's like, so I figure, I'm close with this. I figure I got about 5 years here. Okay, look at me, old guy. Okay, family actuarial tables, likely a heart attack. So I figure I got about 5 years here. So you got about 5 years to use me. Okay, I'm going to be doing what I do and seeking to elevate the quality of professional services that are provided to children in the courts. I'm getting zero help from APA, AFCC, the court system. Nobody is working to try to elevate the mental health services in the family courts. So you got about 5 years. After that, I'm leaving, and then you'll have my books, and I got my booklets, and I'll be producing more booklets for you. And you can go through them and say, oh, look, he had the solution 10 years ago. And yeah, I had the solution. Nobody cared. And because you are all part of the pathology. You attorneys, family law attorneys, you're child abusers. One of you, is a child abuser, is participating in that parent's abuse of the children, and you're collaborating with that. You're helping that parent to abuse the child. You, the attorney, are a child abuser and a spousal abuser. And you're saying, well, that's my job. I would question that. I think your job as an officer of the court is to get the court accurate information. I don't think that your job is to collude with your client to deceive the court so that the client continues to abuse a child. So attorneys, you need to kind of look at that. Half of you in the family courts in the AFCC, half of you guys are child abusers. Okay, maybe not the AFCC because they're more likely the targeted parents, attorney versus pathological parents attorney. But that's an issue within the legal system that you're going to have to work out. And for mental health people, misdiagnose the shared prescriptory delusion, you become a child abuser. So all your forensic psychologists, you're child abusers because you're not returning a diagnosis, and we need that diagnosis. And so you're participating in covering it up with your euphemisms of parental alienation, resist, refuse dynamic. You're child abusers and spousal abusers, and you're going to have to figure that out and start not doing that and practicing, going back and practicing at a professional level. And everybody has to care about that. Care about professionalism, care about accuracy of our diagnosis and effectiveness of our treatment plans, and protecting children from child abuse and protecting parents from spousal abuse. We have to care about that as mental health people, rather than just giving the courts what we give them now. So with that, I'm saying you got about 5 years. You can use me, or I'll leave you some stuff, and you can work from that then. So with that, I'm going to continue my day of recovery and see what I can do to get myself back on track. So with that, good. Take care, everybody, and good luck out there. Parents, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you have to explain the pathology to your doctors. I'm sorry that nobody cares about that in professional psychology, and I'm sorry that for the low quality of mental health services that you're receiving, you and your children. That should never happen. So with that, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.